Hi, this is Dave Gershman, and you are back at the Reselect Music Podcast. And for this episode, Eric and I listened to a good chunk of Joni Mitchell. Her discography is quite large over her entire performing life. So we whittled it down. Well, I shouldn't say we whittled it, but we narrowed it down to her first 8 albums, I believe it was. And basically what most people would consider her classic years. And without further delay, here's what we had to say about Joni Mitchell. Welcome back to the Reselect Music Podcast. This is Dave.
Hey, and this is Eric sitting right over here.
Yeah, and we're back again after a nice visit with Sly and the Family Stone last time.
Yeah, we've gone through Snowmageddon.
Snowmageddon, that's right, here in the
Pacific
Northwest. You
yeah.
may have heard something about that. We get lots and lots of snow.
Yeah, unusually.
Very unusual for us. Sometimes we never get any.
But now we got a fire going, the snow's melted,
that's
and
right. We're nice and cozy here, and we're ready to talk about music again.
Got a cold beverage. And
who are we talking about this time, Eric?
Joni Mitchell. Miss
Joni
Mitchell.
That's right.
You know, as I was reading about her, I realized she's a full 20 years older than I am.
Wow. Yeah, she's been around a long time.
Yeah. You know, I've seen some of the pictures, though. She's a lovely...
She was a very lovely one.
But she kicked off in her music career at a nice young age of 20-ish. Then.
Actually, I believe she was with... she sang with her husband first. So some guy, something Mitchell. Mitchell's not her maiden name.
Right. Yeah, I did capture there was some...
Yes, I forget now.
Same here.
So they sang as a duet, a duo, for a little while, and then they broke up, and she went solo. And
well, before we talk about her music, I'm kind of curious about her associations with other people, other musicians, and their. Because I did see something about she was partners with David Crosby for a short period of time.
Are you talking about romantic relationships?
Yeah.
She got around, as they say.
That's not a nice thing to say.
Well, no, I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm not judging. She got involved. She had emotional connections with a lot of people.
The whole celebrity atmosphere, I have no idea what that might be like. But,
I mean, they mingled a lot.
And that was the 60s and 70s.
Exactly. It's a different time. Yeah. She was with David Crosby for a while. She lived with Graham Nash for a couple of years. In fact, Our House, the Crosby, Stills, Nash song, is about him and her.
Yeah. I just read that part.
I
wonder if that created some problems inside Crosby, Stills.
You know, I don't know. It could have, I suppose, but I don't think so, because I think there may be a little time between those two. I don't think she went from one to the other.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think she and David Crosby necessarily ever got super attached, but I don't know. I really don't.
When was Stills in that mix? Did he? I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah, he actually appears on a couple of her albums, so they were friends too. But I don't. Who knows? I mean, there may be relationships that nobody's ever really heard about for all we know. So.
That's anybody's guess, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, but she and David Crosby were a thing for a little while, and he wrote Guinevere about his relationship with her and another woman. Not all at the same time.
Yeah.
But he has said that.
I'm glad you clarified that.
Yes, he has said that song was written as a composite of his relationship with her and his relationship with another woman who was not a woman. So
in Guinevere, it's parts of
Green
eyes.
Yeah, right. I think the description.
Yeah,
I think so.
Really.
The descriptions are about her. And
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, he was quite taken with her, I believe. So
yeah.
She was also involved with James Taylor for a while.
That was my next question.
And which kind of weird, because they seem like very different people. Like James Taylor makes sense with Carly Simon. Yeah, I know, but he's like, I guess he was pretty dark. He went this very depressed.
There's some of his albums that are like that.
He was actually committed to an institution for a while.
I've heard this before.
Yeah. So he wasn't all, the happy songwriter singer that we kind of associate with him these days.
Are there any songs of Joni Mitchell's that are from that time period when she was with James Taylor?
Yeah, in fact, most of was a Blue. A lot of Blue was written about him.
Huh.
I believe it was Blue. And let's see, what came right before Blue was Ladies of the Canyon. I think.
What year is Blue?
Actually, you know what? I think I'm wrong. I think Ladies of the Canyon has a few songs about that.
Uh-huh.
Looking at the list here of songs on that album, I'm trying to remember what I read, but
That must be like early 70s.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like 70, 71.
Yeah.
Right around the turn of the decade. But there are definitely a few songs she wrote about their breakup, and apparently it didn't go fantastically well. And then she had a very bad relationship, as it turned out, with Jackson Browne. That really did not end well. In fact, like, to this day, there's bad blood. It depends whose side you listen to, but he says that she kind of like went a little nuts and like accused him.
That's what the guy always says.
Well, right. I mean, you have to. You never know. I mean, it's he may just be. Well, she said he was abusive. He denies that on. He says she made things up about the relationship. Yeah. And
well, I'm sad to hear that, because I'm pretty fond of Jackson Browne's music, and something disparaging like that.
This was around the Running on Empty, right around the time he got
popular. Yeah, that was a freaking great album too.
So there were some things did not go well with them.
Yeah,
but she was also involved with a couple of her other backing musicians at various times, and I think she married one guy, and was with him for a long time and several years. I forget his name.
Someone in her band?
Yeah. He played with her, and So I mean, she was a very passionate woman.
Nothing wrong with that.
No,
nothing wrong with that. And then kudos to her, man. Life is short, and it's great to find love where you can.
And at the time, she was at the peak of her creative abilities, and that's very attractive.
And all these broken hearts that she experienced, like fodder for great music.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, that's the thing about the breakups. You get you get a lot of good songs out of them all the time. So.
Well, one thing about Joni Mitchell is, though, she had, it's almost like she had some insights and got really in touch with the way she felt, and was able to articulate that. Yeah. In her music, her poetry and
right. Well,
being able to express that was profoundly more than many of her contemporaries.
Right. I think she had much better ability to express her feelings and analyzing relationships, or seeing things from removing herself sort of from the situation and kind of seeing it from a different perspective. And her poetic abilities are definitely better than most.
Like some real insights that she expresses in her songs, and we were talking earlier that there is a particularly large female following of Joni Mitchell, and maybe because of that, they can relate.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that she was really good at making her personal experiences. Phrasing them, putting them in a universal perspective, I guess, that people could just relate to, even though she may have been putting it in some way that nobody else would have thought of, but it's still, you can identify with it all. And the beauty of the art as well.
I wonder, I didn't grow up with Joni Mitchell. I didn't listen to her, and in fact, this past period of time is the most I've ever listened to Joni Mitchell, and I think that must not be the same for you. You must have. Your parents were into music, so you must have listened to Joni Mitchell at that period in time. Yeah.
In fact, I grew up hearing Joni Mitchell very frequently as a very small child. Almost as far back as I can remember. I remember hearing Joni Mitchell on the stereo pretty frequently. Her first few albums, pretty much the span of albums we've listened to for this show. I specifically remember the earlier albums the most, because I think they listened to those more frequently. Court and Spark was definitely in pretty high rotation also.
Yeah. Well, the critics certainly like that one.
Yeah, that's kind of... that one.
What year did that one come
out? 74 or 75.
I can always count on you to know these things, man. You like the Trivial Pursuit dude of music. Awesome.
I have a mental framework for fitting albums. Yeah. I have these slots in my head.
Do you think it's OCD thing or a savant? I'm just fucking.
Well, I'm not typically OCD, so I don't know. But it's something. I don't know what it is, but I have this like my wife can never really understand how the hell I do it, but or why.
And just standing back, we're all impressed, really.
Well, thank you.
Awesome.
I know. I kind of have these images of each year in my head, and I kind of have like albums and slots in them. So it's almost like I'm seeing.
It's a visual. Almost,
yeah, it's a visual in my head. It's like a visual thing. I'm sure it's like pulling it off a shelf.
That's cool.
I don't know. It's hard to describe, but anyway. So I have a very good sense of like what year any given album came out. And anyway, but Court and Spark came out in 1974, right. And so that would make me, well, I don't want to date myself here, but I was pretty young, so all right, I was 8 years old.
He was like, yeah, okay. Let's not keep our listeners in suspense with stuff like that.
I'm 25, what are you talking about here?
Me too. So of that era, you know, you and I can go back and listen to songs and look at the charts and see what was really popular. Then is that fair to say that represents what Joni Mitchell songs were, in your experience, also the more popular songs, or what resonated with you, perhaps? Is that
well? It's interesting. I think my dad. I'm not sure who the bigger Joni Mitchell fan was. Actually, my dad or my mom. I haven't asked them that. I just remember being on. I think I remember my dad putting on it more often.
Yeah.
That's sort of my vague impression. But he would...
And your parents are hippies, it sounds like.
No.
To listen to Joni Mitchell. I'm just...
They weren't. They were...
They're farm people, though.
That's where I discovered my love of the Beatles. And of course, hippies like the Beatles, too. But they were never... No, my parents were not farm people.
What? Come on, man.
I just told Eric about...
We just rattled through about 15 different animals.
Yeah, well, I grew up with a lot of farm animals, and my parents were hobbyist farmers, is what I meant to say, really. But they were not farm people. They didn't grow up in farms, and they certainly didn't do that for a living. But no, yeah, wasn't that kind of thing.
You smell that funny weed every now and then around the house?
No, never. They hit it well. No, I don't.
Maybe they just didn't do it.
I'm pretty sure they didn't do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think my dad was really into her early stuff. He especially liked like Morning Morgantown, that whole album. That was her second album.
Would you, if you don't mind, playing a little clip from?
Sure, I think I will do that. So Chelsea Morning is actually one of the ones I remember best too. Let's put that on here. So like her really acoustic stuff is sort of what I got to know best, I think. And
she is an amazing acoustic guitarist.
She is so good.
She blew me away.
She's an amazing instrumentalist. Her voice covers all these different octaves, but her guitar playing is so intricate.
Yeah.
And she has all these weird tunings.
Man, yeah.
And it's really hard actually to try to play this stuff on guitar.
Yeah, well, you know, we played guitar the other night. It's been a month now or so. But anyway, Dave didn't try to. He played one of her songs. I tried to replicate one of Joni Mitchell's songs, and it's super complicated. The rest of us tried to keep up, and
it was one of the easier ones of her stuff. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was a standard tuning, yeah.
Yeah, standard tuning. Yeah, and she doesn't have all that many of those.
Yeah.
You know, and like even Big Yellow Taxi, I think it's got a slightly different tuning than. Yeah. I mean, you can play it in regular tuning, but it's just different than how she did it.
Yeah. A Big Yellow Taxi is that Paved Paradise and Put in the Parking Lot song. Yeah. If you're unfamiliar with her music.
I think that's probably her best known song.
You know what surprised me when I heard that song? I didn't know it was Joni Mitchell that sang that, and I thought that was a more contemporary song that came out in the past 10 years or so.
So you heard the cover by Counting Crows or something like that?
I'm sure I have, but I'd heard Joni Mitchell sing it before.
Oh, and you thought that version was actually a newer song?
Yeah, I wouldn't have attributed that to Joni Mitchell at all.
And that came out in 70.
Yeah.
What was it, 72, 73?
Yeah, about that age.
It was on Ladies of the Canyon. and that came out in 1970. So yes, that's
Holy
a pretty
cow,
old song.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's really well recorded. I mean, like the recording for albums I like a lot too. I think they're very crisp sounding in a way that not all folk music was back then.
Mm-hmm.
David Crosby produced her first album.
No, yeah, I
Did you read that too?
Yeah.
Also known as Song to a Seagull,
Yeah.
which actually was from
Yeah,
Jonathan Livingston Seagull. You know that? Did you ever read that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The first album was produced by David Crosby, and I think in a way it doesn't sound quite as crisp. Maybe it has a good sound to it. I mean, but there's something a little more haunting on that album. And again, this may be tied to my memories of it as a child, because that's one of the ones that kind of stands out as like this. There was something a little disconcerting about that album to me.
Is it attributed to poor recording?
No, I don't think so. No, not really. It's
the music itself?
It's a little bit the music. She had these very kind of dramatic chord changes and
well, does
like it's a minor.
This has kind of a dark sound to it.
Right.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. It's not like an upbeat. It's not like it's very kind of intense, really. And when you're like 5 or 6 years old and hearing this, you don't really know what to make of this kind of stuff. But it stuck with me, and and I think as a kid, I kind of wouldn't have said that I liked it that much, but as I got older, I really came to appreciate it much more. This song, as an aside,
this is one of the songs that I like.
Yeah.
I dig this one.
This actually was sampled by the band PM Dawn.
Yeah.
For one of their songs on their breakthrough album, which I can't remember what the album was called, but the song was Whisper.
What part of the song do they sample? And,
here,
and I wonder if
I will show you, because I can do that that. On my handy dandy iPad. Their very first one.
PM Dawn, is that what you call it?
PM Dawn. They're kind of a hip hop.
So no, that doesn't make any sense. The name of that band doesn't make any sense. PM
Dawn. Yeah.
Dawn. That's dusk. PM is dusk.
Right. And I think that's the whole point. It's kind of this like contrast.
All right. Well, I'll go with that.
It's not just dawn, morning dawn. It's the Bliss album, 1993. The song was "Ways of the Wind." Here it is.
Same guitar, man.
Well, it is an actual sample, so. But it becomes a very different song in a moment here.
So did you read that somewhere, or did you
I had this
identify
album. I had this album, and I said, "Wow, that's Joni Mitchell," and I knew right away.
Yeah.
Because like I said, that song.
I've heard it 1,000 times.
Yeah, that song had been in my head, just part of my childhood.
Huh.
And I think a lot of people who hear this album have no idea where that comes from.
Yeah, but they say, "Oh, that sounds familiar."
Yeah. Like right here, he's singing, same melody she sings.
Yeah.
But different lyrics.
And clearly they know Clearly they know that they're sampling Joni Mitchell.
Well, yes,
it's like happenstance.
I think it's not just by accident that but then it gets much more of a beat than she ever had to hers.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But still, the guitar in the background is the same one.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
and it's a beautiful sound.
It is, and it works well for their song too. I think, but that whole album, I find, has that feeling to me of like sort of a darker.
Yeah.
It's different because I think the next couple kind of get more. They kind of open up to me a bit. They're more like a song like "Morning Morgantown" is such a happy. It's like Snow White waking up and like singing with the birds. Like
how far along in there is Clouds? Because Clouds is
her second album, and that's where Chelsea Morning is on Clouds, and I was just playing that a moment ago. But there's also that song about the Midway, which I think is a little more downbeat, but it's just got this beautiful melody. And this is one of my favorite songs by her. Like I really like the lyrics and such a beautiful melody.
This is really pleasant. Well, you know, I learned a lot about Joni Mitchell as I was reviewing these albums, and discovered some songs that I knew that I already liked, and was able to like identify that she in fact was the one who sang that.
It's like Both Sides Now.
Wow, in Clouds, you know.
Well, that is the same song.
Oh, okay.
Clouds is Both Sides Now. I mean, it's named, the album's named.
And the Taxi and
right.
You know, and probably 2 or 3 other songs. If I thought about it, I could rattle off. But that Joni Mitchell sang those, I wouldn't be able to tell you until I did this review with these things. Along with that, of course, we listened to a bunch of her other songs, and being unfamiliar with Joni Mitchell's music, I realized that, you know, as much as I really like those few songs of hers that I do like, all the other songs, not all of them, but so many of them, you know, she has a high pitch that she hits in many of her songs that I had a very difficult time.
I can see this was going.
Yeah, you know, I want to be, you know, diplomatic about this and not say anything. You know, but
you don't have to like everything.
In my experience or my opinion, you know, I had a very difficult time, you know, to use an unpleasant word, enduring.
Wow.
The whole song.
Wow.
You know? And in fact, I was listening to the albums and I had them going in the background, or I try and focus on them as best I could while I was, you know, trying to multitask. And if I heard a song that I was enjoying, I was able to stop and like say, "Hey, I like this song. What's the name of it? Let me listen to the lyrics and learn something about this." But by and large, she'd hit a high note in the song, and it totally turned the entire song up.
Shattered your brain for a moment.
You know, and even in the songs that I like, she does that, but it's not so overbearing.
Yeah.
But many of her songs, it is kind of it casts a whole.
It just rubs you the wrong way.
It does that.
Well, you know, I can identify with what you're talking about. I mean, I can probably guess a few of the songs where that might have been the case.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't. I mean, I don't like everything she does.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big fan, but
yeah.
After.
Well, it's fair to say about any artist that were. Well, of course, is the Beatles.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there are a few bands where, like, I like a majority of what they do, and for her, I really like everything up through Court and Spark.
Yeah,
quite a lot. After that, we also listened. Well, we actually haven't told people what we listened to for this.
Yeah. I referred to the first 8 albums.
Right. Yeah, well, that was what it was. And just to go through that list, that's Joni Mitchell, a.k.a. Song to a Seagull, which was 1968. Clouds, which was 1969. Ladies of the Canyon was 1970. Blue was 1971. For the Roses was 1972. Court and Spark, 1974. We skipped her live album, Miles of Isles, 1974, because I personally don't really care much about live albums. I mean, I know they can be good, but they don't mean that much to me.
Yeah, I struggle with live albums.
I like going to live shows, but I don't really get a lot out of live albums.
There are some exceptions, like, you know...
Cheap Trick Live in Budokan.
Okay, that one. But like Leonard Skinner, when there's a live album. There's another live album.
Yeah, there are a few pretty iconic ones that.
What song is it you want to hear?
Honestly, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah.
Another example for me would be Peter Frampton.
Oh yeah, that's a freaking. Great
Although
album.
I never owned that album, and I probably heard a lot of it just on the radio. You know, but I appreciate some of the live context works better for some of those songs. The same thing with the Cheap Trick songs, which I was pretty big Cheap Trick fan too. Yeah. But the way they come across in concert like I Want You to Want Me is a far better song live than it ever was in the studio, because in the studio version it's much more plinky and sort of like it's very contained and cute, but it doesn't have much power to it. But then when they play it live, it's just like bam.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're getting off track here, but we didn't bother with her live album, so and we agreed on that. And then the next one was The Hissing of Summer Lawns, 1975, and Hijira, 1976, and that's where we stopped. And those two albums for me were the least well known, of her things to me. Everything Court and Spark and before I have actually on CD, but I also, those are the ones I.
So what are the years for those last two albums? Is it 74 and 76?
75 and 76. And my parents had those, but they didn't play them as much. And I always thought of them as like the weird albums, like they were just some sort of like odd music. I think I must have heard them at least once or twice and just realized that this is not the Joni Mitchell I'm used to hearing. And in retrospect, now that I'm older and understand what's going on in those albums, it's her jazz influence coming into play.
Yeah.
And she became a little unbearably jazzy as her career went on, and I can't deal with that. No, I like jazz. I mean, I love some jazz, like Miles Davis and the 50s cool jazz and earlier big band stuff is great, But the kind of jazz she was integrating was more of this like smooth, not quite smooth jazz, but this kind of not jazz that I really have a whole lot of appreciation for. And it wasn't pure jazz anyway. It was just sort of influenced by jazz, and she got really pretentious, I think, and it just kind of ruined it for me. And I
don't hurt her feelings, man. Do you want to hear this?
She's not a very nice person. Did I mention that?
What?
Well,
is she bitter?
This would come up eventually in this discussion. I might as well talk about it now. She was.
I can't wait to hear this.
She's kind of a genius, I'm going to go right there and say that. I mean, she is one of the greatest music people we have in popular music. I mean, she was hugely impactful, and she was doing things nobody else was doing. Her songwriting was unlike anybody else. Like there were a lot of female folk singers, but very few of them were as like experimental with their the chord changes and the music and just her singing. I mean, whether you like the high pitches or not, I mean, she was just, her melodies kind of just had a really interesting flow to them most of the time. She was rarely satisfied just singing like a straight melody. Like Big Yellow Taxi is an exception, for example. But so many times her melodies go in places you would never expect a song to go, like, or at least a commercially or radio song, or something.
And make reference to her. Sometimes when she hit those high pitches, it's not the entire song is like that. There are many parts of the particular songs that I really enjoyed, but I couldn't listen to. But then I had a hard time listening to the whole thing because there'd be these other parts,
Yeah. She can hit some really high notes that are.
Oh man.
Kind of go right to your brain if you have it on loud enough.
The fork in my hand, and I almost lost an eye one time.
It was almost preferable to having to, your ear maybe just jam it right in there, pierce your eardrums rather than have to hear another Joni Mitchell high pitch. Her creativity didn't stop, but she went in these directions that I personally don't find very enjoyable. So I listened to I owned one of her 90s albums, what was it called? Wild Things Run Fast. And that was, it's 82. Jeez, I thought it was.
That was close.
No, actually, I had that one, but I also had Night Ride Home. That's the one I was thinking of. That was 91. And that had some pretty good stuff on it, but overall, like, her voice was not what it used to be. It was starting to, I mean, it may be enjoyable in its own way, but it was kind of like affected by smoking.
What about the high pitch thing?
Well, cigarettes killed that, so she couldn't do that.
Well, maybe I might like that.
You might. Maybe so. Well, here's one song. Let's see. What is it? Oh, coming from the cold. You might even know this. I don't know.
Coming in from the cold. That's a Bob Marley tune.
I just find them a little on the bland side overall, with some really good songs here and there, but.
Yeah, I kind of like the rhythm of this, but I miss her guitar.
Well, that's the thing. her. I mean, I'm sure she's still playing throughout these songs, but it becomes less of a focus, and I think for me that's part of the problem too. I think the production ends up sounding a little too slick for me a lot of times too, and just like this is a really I like the song a lot. This is got a good melody, and her singing on here is still pretty good. She still had a pretty good range. Later on, I think it got worse. Like she was a heavy smoker throughout her life, and she's still alive. But I think it just kind of killed her voice, or it definitely changed it. Again, people might.
Well, she's still at a ripe old age of 75 right now. So.
Yeah. Well, she apparently nearly died a few years ago from something.
Was that right?
I don't remember what it was now, but so she's been in pretty bad health recently. But here's the thing: she is now this angry old woman who just
at what?
Just she rails at the world, like she just feels like she was mistreated and never got her fair share, and she thinks she's called Bob Dylan a pretender, basically.
What?
Yeah,
Come on, man.
No,
it's so far.
She gives almost nobody else their credit, but she expects everybody to give her credit for her achievements. And she thinks she's not been given her fair dues. I mean, and I disagree with that. I think the things that she really deserves it for, she's gotten tons of credit for. And I think,
is she doing all right? I mean, is she living under a bridge somewhere, or
she's not living under a bridge? But I think she is. She has burned a lot of bridges.
Yeah.
She doesn't live under one, but she has burned a lot of them. And I think she's lost a lot of friends along the way. Yeah. She's lost a lot of fans by both from
where's the love?
Changing quality of her music, but also she's just not the person you really.
Is she getting political at all?
No, not really. She just sounds angry about a lot of stuff, and it's fine to be angry at the right things, but she doesn't sound like she's being angry at the right thing. It sounds like she's had this thing stewing in her head about.
Yeah.
It's just.
Maybe she's facing some neurosis that.
I mean, who knows? I'm trying to. I don't want to be judgmental about it.
Yeah.
I don't let it affect my appreciation of her earlier stuff. I kind of have this.
You, Dave.
Thank you. I'm very proud of myself for this.
It's so charitable.
Yes. Well, I because I want to continue to enjoy these albums. I don't want them to be affected too much by just the fact that she's not necessarily all that with it these days or whatever. I kind of compartmentalize. I think of later Joni Mitchell as like this whole different person.
And that's fine. I perhaps you're familiar with Michelle Shock's songs, and some of her early stuff.
She was great.
Of.
Yeah.
And then I learned, there's some changes in her life that I don't necessarily agree with, and she got all religious on this and was like castigating homosexuals. And I don't really approve of that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make me appreciate her music less.
Right. Although there comes a point at which it does make it really hard. I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard what she said specifically, but for somebody where like you feel like there was some sort of event in their life where they suddenly found God and found fundamentalism or whatever it is that made them start thinking this way. That's a little easier to take than the idea that maybe they were like this all along.
Yeah, something happened.
Like if it's just that they finally started feeling more comfortable saying these things, and that's somehow obvious.
Yeah,
it makes it a lot harder to take, and like if somebody.
I'm choosing the most charitable interpretation. Of those.
Right. I mean, you can rationalize, and if it helps you appreciate it,
Yeah, because I don't want to lose those songs.
Yeah, for Joni Mitchell, it's just disappointing hearing reading about the things she has said about people and to people, and
that's pretty.
It's not so much that she come out as like some evil person. It's just it just doesn't sound like somebody I'd be too interested to know. But the early Joni Mitchell was just fascinating. I think she just seems like an amazing person and musician and just creative force.
My impression of who she is without really identifying with the music as much of an opportunity that you had listening to it in your youth. She strikes me as a kind of a more progressive artist.
Yeah. You mean like politically progressive, or you just...
she doesn't really allude to much politics in her music, but I kind of get that sense.
Yeah. No, I think it comes through, even if she doesn't talk about it directly.
There's a freedom about
people,
her. That,
right. And I think artists can sometimes like talk about other subjects in ways that imply that they are also.
Yeah, you can kind of connect the dots.
Right, exactly. Right? Yeah, I think she didn't necessarily get political, but I mean, so many of her songs are written from a personal point of view, and it's not always her own personal point of view, but she very frequently is telling stories about a person or from one person talking about another. Yeah, she's not one to make big, broad statements usually. Although Big Yellow Taxi sort of is. Well, but again, that's from a very personal perspective. But she's obviously talking about the environment, not. They're paving it over. They're ruining the world. Of course, that song is actually very overtly political, really, I mean, or progressive.
And from one of her earlier albums, there's a song called Marcy.
Yes, and that's a great song.
It's a great song, and she what first captured me about that was she uses a red light, it's a red light, yellow light, green light, and she uses different explanations as what the different colors mean throughout the song, and it really captured me. I thought that was really a great tune. It was so artistic, and
here it is now.
Well, what do you know about that?
Well, what a coincidence.
But I thought that was very skillfully done.
Right.
And when I heard this song and listened to it a second and third time, I did have an appreciation for her skills and her songwriting ability.
Yeah. Well, when you think about this is her first album.
Yeah.
I mean, the sophistication on this album, lyrically and musically, it's no wonder people took notice. And this one doesn't get as much critical praise as the next few, but I think it's just really remarkable. I mean, because at this time you had people like Judy Collins who covered Both Sides Now, and that's probably the version you may have been more familiar with initially. But she was more of an interpreter. Judy Collins was more of an interpreter. She didn't write a lot of her own stuff. She may have done a few, but she usually sang other people's stuff. So you had people like her. Let's see, the Mamas and the Papas. Most of their stuff was written by John Phillips.
And these are contemporaries of
contemporaries of that era. I think they had. There's another one. I don't know if you've heard of. I can't think of her name. She wrote. Holy smokes! What is it?
Well, if I may interrupt your train of thought there, perhaps you'll think of when I'm talking. But when I think of Joni Mitchell, I also think of Joan Baez, and I don't know how closely related these people are.
Well,
where does it?
She was another example that I probably would have come up next. Joan Baez is like more related to Bob Dylan's early stuff.
Yeah, are they from the same era though?
Joan Baez was a little earlier. Joan Baez was like early 60s.
Okay.
I mean, and they overlapped, of course, but Joan Baez came up around the same time as Dylan. They were boyfriend girlfriend too, but I don't know if you knew that for a couple of years.
Joan Baez, I think I knew.
But she's also a very talented songwriter. But hers were much more very traditional folk structures.
Yeah,
she didn't do this kind of stuff where it was like not the way Joni Mitchell does.
Yeah.
Laura Nyro.
Who you trying to think of a second name?
Yeah. She played piano.
Say your name again?
Nyro. I never know how to pronounce it.
N-I-R-O?
N-Y-R-O.
N-Y-R-O.
Yeah. She's an amazing songwriter and singer, but her thing was piano. And she's clearly the inspiration for a lot of some of the female singer-songwriters of like the 80s, and I'm thinking of people like Tori Amos and Sarah McLachlan. What's so funny about Tori Amos?
If I may digress.
Go ahead, please do. I'll stop the music so you can digress.
I'm hanging out with some friends. And we might have had a couple beers, and Tori Amos song comes on, and somebody says, "Oh, that's Tori Amos," and my buddy goes, "I taught my Amos one time."
Oh, jeez.
And I was about halfway through a swig of beer, and I almost spit it all over it. I didn't, but I almost did.
I have to admit that's kind of funny. As crude as I think that was meant to be.
It was pretty crude. Oh man. crazy.
That's kind of funny. Never heard that one before. And I'm actually a fan of Tori Amos too.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't tell you what she sings.
Yeah, Cornflake Girl was her big one.
Cornflake Girl?
Yeah.
All right.
Laura Nyro was she's heavily influenced this other group of Nellie McKay is another person who she's piano based and there's this like kind of a theatrical nature to the performance.
Mm-hmm.
Like Laura Nyro wrote at least one hit song for the Fifth Dimension.
Kidding.
I think it was Up and Away. No, wait. Did she write that, or was? Oh, no. Wedding Bell Blues. Do you know that song, Wedding Bell Blues?
No, I don't. Yeah. Every time we talk about music, Dave, I become so impressed with the breadth of your familiarity and knowledge about this stuff. It's really cool.
I don't know. It's soaked in. Sometimes I can't remember the simplest names, though. You know,
What do you come back to it like you just did with?
Yeah, usually it comes around eventually, but. Yeah. Here's this is a great
when
Stone
you reach
Soul.
My age.
This is Stone Soul Picnic. Your age, oh yeah, like you're so much older than me.
And who?
This is Laura Nyro. Right. This is Stone Soul Picnic from her. She's a big Carole King like too.
Oh yeah,
another fantastic songwriter.
I
Carole King had so many hits that weren't even hers. She wrote so many of the great '60s songs. Or co-wrote them with her husband.
I like this chick's voice.
She's got a great voice, yeah. Excuse me. But just watch where the song goes. It just keeps changing. There.
This is Laura Nyro.
Yeah. And she was this, that's her there. She sounds very soulful, but she's this white Jewish girl from New York City. And
what year did this song come out?
68.
No kidding.
Yeah.
It sounds like maybe not totally contemporary, but a fairly recent song.
Yeah. Okay.
The production's really good.
Oh, it's after the chorus. Yeah. But like I said,
something's going to happen.
Something's going to happen, people. Watch out. I'm going to play this whole song. Here it comes. I love this part. So she just does these things. She
I could listen to this, man.
Yeah. Maybe we should have done her. No? Yeah. We could.
I'm going to replace all my Joni Mitchell recordings with Laura Nyro.
Or at least the ones that have the high pitched.
No, I'm just going to commit.
Oh, come on. Eric likes Joni Mitchell. Don't listen to him. No. Oh wait. Wedding Bell Blues. I want to play that just because you probably know that.
Nice piano, man.
She was a great piano player.
This is something familiar. Oh yeah, I totally know. Yeah.
So this is her version. It's not the hit version. The hit version was the Fifth Dimension, which was just a little bit faster than this.
Yeah. I'm hearing the Fifth Dimensions version, but yeah, I'm familiar with the song for sure.
Yeah. Won't you marry me? Yeah. We're getting a little off the Joni Mitchell subject here. But that's okay. Talking about her contemporaries is certainly worthwhile.
And coming back to the whole Carole King thing,
yeah,
I love Carole King.
Yeah.
And the whole that Tapestry album.
Tapestry is an amazing album.
There are often times I'm listening to it brings tears to my eyes. You know,
yeah,
it's just like,
that's a powerful album. That's a great album. Well, she's just one of the greatest songwriters, period, pop songwriters of the 60s and 70s. And like Tapestry was by far, I think, her high point for her own recordings. But she had so many other things that she did. And, Well, what I was about to say was that
Yeah.
I think what I'd like to do is get back to actually going through the albums, which we haven't really done at all. We've just been talking very broadly about her.
It's true.
And occasional
right.
songs here and there.
Right.
So the first album, the one produced by David Crosby, we've already talked about that pretty
well. We talked about Marcy.
And the effect it had on me as a child with the kind of little darker tones, and it kind of had a very different feel for me, and it kind of stuck with me, It's like,
how often have you talked to your therapist about this one?
Yeah. If I had one.
Well, there was one more song on there that I liked. It was right after Marcy. The
Sisitobel Lane.
Is that no? It's some
Nathan Lafreniere.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's actually a great.
That's an interesting album. Yeah, interesting song.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that song.
Let's take a quick listen to that one.
Yeah, refresh my memory here what that is.
Oh yeah.
The guitar in this one caught me.
Yeah.
There's something that happens in the song, and maybe it was just my recording.
Yeah.
But there's a sound that goes through. It's like an asteroid flying by as a recording or something like that.
Interesting.
And it's a very unpleasant sound that takes away from the song.
Oh.
I don't know why it's in there. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah?
It's the... Yes, it's...
Yeah!
I don't like that either. I have to admit.
What the hell? What were they thinking?
It was a poor musical choice. Probably David Crosby idea.
Yeah.
Here, it comes after... As she sings... She finishes the chorus, and it comes in with this... Here.
Yeah.
That? It's harmonica, actually.
I don't mind that one too much. It happens again, and it's much louder and much more pronounced. And it's like...
It's harmonica, and it's not the prettiest harmonica. Oops. I'm not a big fan of that part of the song. The song that I really love on here is Sisitobel Lane, which you would never think you could fit the words Sisitobel Lane into a song and have it flow well, but she does it. She pulls it off.
She's an amazing...
it's Sisotobell, and she's Canadian, as you probably know, right?
Yeah.
So, and I suspect that's a place in Canada. I haven't looked it up.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just the name kind of makes me think it must be Canadian.
Sisitobel, yeah, I would go with that.
So here's how she does it. Here, let's take that. It's a beautiful song. And her singing here, I think, is just beautiful. This range for her is a good range for her. Does this bother you? Does that high? That bothers you too? That's not even high.
It's this falsetto thing that she does.
It's not falsetto when you have a high voice.
Maybe I'm not using the right
falsetto
term.
Is a male just trying to sing like that. When a woman sings like that, it's just her normal range.
Yeah.
That bothers you? Oh my god. Oh boy. We got our work cut out here for us. Okay. Okay, let's move on to Clouds. So Clouds is a great album. It gets a little more... it's got that song about the Midway, the one that I played that I really like. Chelsea Morning is a fantastic song. Woke up, it was a Chelsea Morning.
Would you play a clip from that one?
Chelsea Morning?
Yeah.
I think we did that earlier, didn't we? This is like an early predecessor of Big Yellow Taxi. Right? It's got that kind of
it does have that kind of rhythm to it, this isn't the song I was thinking it would be.
Such a happy little song. It's just this is the one I think was
quite a beat.
Yeah, it was like Snow White opening up her windows and seeing the birds flying around her head, and the seven dwarves come marching in and just want to help her with their dishes. And I don't know if the seven dwarves ever helped her with their dishes, but it's just like this happy. Like you don't get much happier.
If somebody wants to wash my dishes, that would make me very pleased.
Well, I'm not going to do it right now.
Some dwarves walking in here, to be honest.
Oh, that would be a little weird. I don't know.
That would be really weird. You're right about that.
So anyway, Her guitar in this is great, and it's just got this melody that, again, it's like it sounds organic. It's like, if you think about it, it's just a melody. It's hard to imagine anybody else coming up with. It goes in places that I don't know. It's not straightforward.
She does like the tempo, and there's some quality to it I can't really put my finger on. It's kind of jumpy like that.
Yeah. Her lyrics just go so well with this drumming here. I think it's just the whole thing has this very it's a perfect mesh. I think of. Then she gets really like,
that would have been, sorry to insult your song, but that would have been one of the songs I would have like hit fast forward.
I can't believe it. That is just nuts.
I'm afraid so.
That is one of the greatest folk songs of the 60s. I'm overstating the fact. I'm just trying to.
Wait, what I meant to say was, that's my favorite song.
No, it's not really one of the greatest folk songs of the 60s. It's a great song though, and I don't. Is it because she sings high? Is it like every time she goes to a higher pitch?
No, it wasn't necessarily that. The rapidity with which she switched from chord to chord, and it didn't.
So I guess you don't like Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard either, because that's pretty much the same kind of thing. Huh? Gotcha there.
Well, that's Paul Simon, so it's
it's okay because he's a man.
It's not making me want to poke my fucking eyeballs.
You're so sexist. Poke it! Oh my god, we're supposed to be trying to convince people that. Actually, it's not really what we're here for. No, we're not trying to convince people of anything, but we're talking.
This is the review.
So then she gets kind of pretentious in this album too, though. Like this song here, "Songs to Aging Children Come."
Yeah,
it's a pretty song.
That was very nice.
And
that's pleasant.
But I think it might have some of those parts.
Oh yeah, see?
There we go. Let's crank this part up a little here. Wait, here it comes, right?
Yeah. Thank you for.
So yeah,
this is damn amusing.
Yeah, it really doesn't bother me the way it bothers you, but I can see how it might bother you. I will give it to you. Both Sides Now. It's on this album. That's a great song.
It's a wonderful, great tune, man.
Great tune. That's a moving song. That's like one of those things where like you listen to it and kind of chokes you up.
There's some particularly famous theatrical production that has that in the.
Oh, what would that be? I'm not sure.
I might be making that up.
No, I mean, could be. Or you could be confusing it with something else.
I might be confusing it with something else.
I'm not sure.
It ought to be.
It ought to be. You should write that.
I should write a play just to include that song.
Third album, Ladies of the Canyon, starts with another one of my favorite ones of her, Morning Morgantown, which, again, I'm not sure.
We've talked about clouds for a second.
I'm sorry.
Can you play a hint of clouds just to...
Well, that's Both Sides Now.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So the name of the song is Both Sides Now.
Yeah. And she mentioned, I've seen clouds from both sides now. Looked at clouds from both sides now.
Okay.
And that's where the album title comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great song.
Yeah. I think our listeners might want to know exactly what song we're talking about if they're unfamiliar with her songs.
This is actually, some people consider this her best song. Like one of her just most iconic songs.
I'd go as far as to say this is probably my favorite song by her.
Sure. Yeah.
And I am very fond of this song, actually.
Yeah. Her voice in that range, you have to admit, that's a great voice.
And you know what? I think it might be a little vanity thing, but I think that's a range that I can sing in also. It sounds...
You wish.
It sounds similar to mine. I can harmonize with her.
Come on, you're supposed to be offended by that. you just talked right through it. It wasn't like a... No, yes,
the reality is, yes, I do wish.
No, well, okay.
There's no way I can keep up with her.
Yeah, you do have a deeper voice, though, and it definitely would work better with that. Okay, so we played that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ladies of the Canyon. This album, I think, So those first two were definitely like primarily her and an acoustic guitar. Like that was. Yeah. There were a few other things in there, a little bit here and there, like that kind of hideous harmonica, but.
I was going to say that, but yeah.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of that part of the song by any means, but I think it was around this album that she started to bring in more. She started bringing piano.
She plays piano, right?
Yeah, very well. She's a very good piano player. But one of my least favorite Joni Mitchell songs is on this album. It's a piano-based song, and I find this is where she started to get even more. She always had a slight tendency towards some pretentiousness on some of those earlier songs, but this one, the arrangement is really not one I appreciate very much at all.
So we're about to play your least favorite song. We're about to play a little bit,
yes.
All right.
I'm my least favorite stuff here. There are some later songs of hers that I like even less. I mean, and I don't hate the song. It's just I don't enjoy it.
Yeah. All right.
It sounds to me like a song where it would be really hard. Like the melody just doesn't make sense to me somehow. Like her vocal melody, it just sounds like she's going in all sorts of places that if she were to sing the song again, it would be different the next time.
Every time it's different.
Yeah. And I don't think that's true. I think she knows what the melody is, but to me, it doesn't sound like a melody that would stick in my head. Like I would have so much trouble trying to replicate the song without even singing along to it. I don't think I could do it. I mean, it's just, I don't know.
Well, now I'm really interested in hearing what's going to happen here.
Guessing you're not loving that part of it.
You still have the time. You could get away and find a better life. You know the grind is so ungrateful.
I mean, okay. I mean, I'm hearing that she's repeating a melody. That's right.
I kind of like how she's being really forceful. She's trying to make a fucking point, you know?
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. I kind of like that part of it. It reminds me a little of Susanna Vega.
Huh. Interesting. It never occurred to me, but I guess I could see that. Susanna Vega's got a much smoother voice.
Yeah, well, there was one segment of the song that brought that to mind. Not this part.
I know. I guess now in retrospect, I'm hearing the melody a little more, but still, it's just like it's more about her singing than the melodies. Like if you aren't Joni Mitchell singing the song,
it ain't happening. Yeah,
it's a completely different song. Which I guess that's true of most songs, but
it's pretty inconsistent with what the piano's doing.
Maybe that's it. I don't know. There's something about it that it just feels like it's trying too hard, or she's trying too hard, or I don't know. I know. So it just I don't enjoy it very much.
If there were parts of the song that did that, I would be okay with it. But
it's kind of the whole
like
thing.
3/4
right.
or
I think
that's
maybe that's it. And I just like I was listening to this in the car, and it came on. And it just really just hard to listen to.
Well, that's been my experience for like.
Apparently, that's more. Yeah, that's not. I think I don't mind her voice going high if it's in the service of a really amazing melody or song or whatever, you know. So this album also has Big Yellow Taxi.
Uh-huh.
It has Woodstock, which, as we all know, is the original version of the Crosby, Stills and Nash song. You know this, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't know it was the original.
Yeah.
Joni Mitchell sings.
She wrote the song.
Ah.
They covered
Can you hear her version?
She played it for them. She didn't even hear. Here's a little story.
Oh, I'm digging this.
Time for a story. I haven't been doing too many of those tonight, but she didn't even go to Woodstock. She was invited.
Oh, I meant to ask you earlier.
She was invited.
Yeah.
But she also had a talk show. I think it was a Dick Cavett show. Maybe she had to appear on the next day, and she was afraid. And I think maybe her manager put it into her head that this might be the case, that if she went up there, she would have to fly or helicopter up there, get up there, do the performance, and get back and make it back in time for the talk show, which was like the next morning or even the same day. I forget. Here it is.
Good choice.
So this is her. This is one of her piano-based songs.
Who's her?
Yeah.
Who?
Joni.
We're back to Joni.
Yeah.
This is
the song Woodstock. So she didn't even attend Woodstock because of that thing with the talk show. As it turned out, Crosby, Stills, Nash did do the show, obviously, famously. That was their first ever gig. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
That was their first. They had just formed their trio from the ashes of the Byrds and Buffalo Springfield and the Hollies. And they formed and they played their first gig at Woodstock, and they sounded fantastic. Anyway, but they got back in time for the talk show, so she could have done it, as it turned out.
So which of those guys was with the Hollies?
Graham Nash.
Is that right?
He was one of the lead singers for the Hollies, yeah.
Because they sing that long cool woman in a black.
That was after he left
was that right?
the group. That was a different singer. There was the other main singer who was also in the earlier songs.
Yeah.
But he sings like there's a Carrie Ann. I don't know if you've heard that.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
I'll play it in a minute. I'll get to that.
Well, I am digging this version. It sounds really nice.
Yeah.
So this is like the version. She wrote it.
She wrote it. She played it for them, and they immediately loved it. Crosby, Stills, Nash. So they took it. They rocked it up.
Yeah.
And they had a huge hit with it. She didn't have a hit with hers, but and actually I think they may even beat her to releasing it, or maybe it was released at the same time. But she based her thing on what Graham Nash described to her about being there. So, like I said, she wasn't there, but she was.
Oh.
She saw TV footage of it, and she heard descriptions.
So this is written after the fact.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Right. Well, she's describing the situation there, which she couldn't have known beforehand.
I guess she did. Yeah.
I
could have put that together.
But it was she wasn't that much of she wasn't that much of a seer. But I think it was written right after, like immediately after it happened, and released and that's why their hit was probably so, because it was so timely. It was also that. Anyway.
Well, as I'm listening, can you play C.S. Simmons'
sure
version of that song?
Yes.
Because I think after having heard a little more of that one, and maybe it's familiarity with Crosby, Stills, and Nash's version of that, but I think I like it. Yeah, man, listen to that. That's like really nice. Look, you're bopping your head too, man.
Oh,
we weren't doing that for Joni versions.
No, I heard this. I heard this version first. Well, no, actually, it's probably not true. Probably heard of my parents' album, but at the time I didn't. I was too young to recognize. And so she's doing it on the keyboard by herself, which is obviously going to be a different sound.
Yeah.
I love her version actually. I do love what they did with it here too, though.
Yes.
They made it so much of a different sound, and their harmonies on the chorus was
fantastic. Harmonies like amazing, man.
So, I think we're just about done talking about Ladies of the Canyon, but the song at the end of this is "The Circle Game," which was also a big hit for a singer named Tom Rush, who I think in this day and age is not very well remembered.
I wouldn't know.
He's he was pretty big folky at the time, and I'm not actually that familiar with most of his stuff. I just know that he had a hit with that song.
Yeah. Well, just the name of the song though, "Circle."
Yeah.
And that rings a bell with me right off the bat, and I'm familiar.
Right.
with
There's the chorus is very memorable. Circle game goes round and round, and it's not really one of my favorite songs by her. It's almost a little too simple. It's a little too traditional.
It is really simple, and that also. But there's something about familiarity with it. Because you get halfway through the song and you know the song all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we...
Should I play a little tad, a little bit? It's a word I use that most people don't use.
Tad?
Tad.
I'm familiar with tad. Do you know hootenanny?
Yeah. I don't use the word very much.
Hootenanny's awesome.
It is a great word. So this is on her third album, but this feels to me like a song from her first or second. Like...
There is some similarities.
I think
right.
she. I actually, reading about this, I think she might have written this early on and didn't get around to recording it till the final album. It would have fit in well with any of those albums. I think what I don't care for so much is the sing-along part of this.
Yeah, I wish that wasn't happening.
That's like Peter, Paul, and Mary to me, or something.
Yeah, right.
Which I like a few of their songs, but that's.
I wish it would have done that.
Yeah,
that's too bad.
It was just her singing. I don't even know who that is. Yeah. That's Tom Rusher's. It does nothing for me. I wish she had just sang it by herself.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been so much better, I think.
You hear that, Joni?
You blew it. No wonder you're bitter. I'm sorry, Joni. I love you, Joni. I just don't love you the older Joni. Now we get to the meat of the Joni Mitchell discography.
Is that right? And this is the meat we're
putting my
on now?
fist into my palm because this is great stuff. Blue.
You go, boy.
Blue is. I'm hearing some echo.
It comes from the guitar.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know if you guys are hearing that, but my voice is resonating from a guitar on the wall at the moment. But,
you just have this
Blue is
resonant
considered.
personality.
Thank you. Blue is considered, and I agree. It's one of the pinnacles of the singer-songwriter thing of the '70s, and it's just such a solid album. And so like, almost every song is just so well written. The stories are fantastic. Her voice is great. The guitar playing is great. Anyway, it's got some of my many of my favorite Joni Mitchell songs, and it's one of the ones I love listening to front to back the most. Well, this and Court and Spark, I think are the ones I just really enjoy hearing all the way through the most. And some of the highlights on this album are All I Want, the lead-off song.
Well, don't just tease us with the name of it. Let's hear it.
So it has a very it's a very personal song, just a very personal perspective. In fact, with the whole album, that's one of the things about it is just how she had sort of been branching out into more broad statements on the other albums before this, but she really just reined it in and made it a very personal album. And it's so much about her love affairs. Oh, in fact, some of these songs are part of the James Taylor thing that I was talking about.
Oh, yeah. We talked about
there are a couple on here, too, that are specifically about him. Like her just her melding of lyrics and music on this album are just sort of she does better here, I think, than almost anywhere else in her discography.
What is it about this period in her life, do you think, that influenced that? Is there anything going on that...
I think she was just reaching some kind of... I don't think it was being influenced by anybody else.
Yeah.
It was just she was reaching the height of her powers, essentially. I think her songwriting was really... had come to this level of sophistication, and her guitar playing only got better, and it all kind of just came together into this kind of perfect storm of songs and singing and playing, and she has some backing musicians on here, but they're so subtle that you really don't think about them very much. Like there's a little drum there going on, very subtle. Stephen Stills apparently plays bass, I think, on a couple songs.
On the song,
and a couple other people guest star on it. And anyway, so let's move on to another song here. Carrie, which is one of the best known songs on here, I think. It's just, I love this song.
The guitar sounds very similar to what you just played.
The music on here, the guitar sounds very much like a Crosby, Stills and Nash song.
Yeah.
Like you could almost imagine them harmonizing together over this same background music. Well, in fact, Stephen Stills might be playing bass right here too. So. Now, does that bother you, that high pitch right there on this song? Because if you say yes, I'm going to not like you anymore.
I don't believe you.
Because it's not piercing there. It's not.
It doesn't. it's not piercing, but it's
you don't
not,
hate every time she gets to high pitch, do you? It's like
there are times when it seems appropriate to me, but when she gets up there and hangs out there and like sings at that level, I find that unnecessary.
Yeah. Well, there's one part in the song where
Like, her voice right there. Her voice is so lovely right there. I mean, why not sing that way? Because when you're up here, it sounds that it sounds artificial, contrived almost.
I agree with you on some songs of hers that it comes across contrived. Here it doesn't to me. Like it just seems just like she's just emoting, like her emotions are bringing her up there. Like to me, it just feels like. I don't know. There's a part where she gets super high pitched on this.
Oh, okay,
right,
wait.
Right yeah, I think it's toward the end. Let's see.
Oh, what just happened?
I skipped ahead. Sorry, that was me skipping. I'm trying to find the part where she gets really super.
Me and our listeners don't want you to do that anymore.
I don't. Anyway, I won't skip ahead like that anymore. I'm sorry. Okay, then I'm going to move to California, which is actually my favorite song on this album.
All right.
No doubt about it. I love California.
It's lovely right
It's just such a... I don't know. Everything about the song is perfect.
I have to grit my teeth through parts of this song.
Are you serious? Wow. That's just...
coming into this, and I know I'd have to tell you this is the point during this, but I anticipate that right there.
Oh my god, I love that point, that part.
I was gonna have to.
I'm giving Eric a look right now. I wish you could see the disdain in my face right now.
Oh god. I anticipate this was gonna happen.
This is such a great story song. And her yearning for California is just so... You feel it. I feel it.
Yeah, I tell you, man, I was... Yeah. I was going to look up the lyrics. In fact, I did look up the lyrics on the songs. I was going to, understand what she was trying to say, throughout all these albums. And I started listening to her voice, and I was like, I can't do this, man. I just fucking can't do this.
Wow. I did not expect that kind of treason. I'm sorry. I'm completely joking. I coming into this whole what we do with these artists, I don't expect that we're both gonna love everything. As it turns out, the two we've done so far, I'm already a big fan of. So there's not really much I'm gonna discover that I hate. But seeing as you aren't as familiar with the stuff, I have to expect that you're not gonna love it all equally.
Yeah.
But it's just that song.
You know what I do love though is I've become so much more familiar. I wanted to. Yeah. And when we came across Joni Mitchell as a topic of one of our podcasts, that struck me as like a really great opportunity to learn some of her music.
Yes. From our discussion so far, it's clear to me you appreciate her talent.
She's an amazing artist. I will not dispute that.
Right.
And guitarist as well.
And I think what it comes down to is your ability to appreciate the higher range switches of her range. I mean, that seems to be kind of your real sticking point more than anything else. I don't think there's anything else really about her that you dislike so much as that. I mean, okay. I had this whole list of points I wanted to talk about, which I haven't even brought out, but one I'm about to get to because that's why I remembered it. The next song happens to be
on the same album.
Yes, the next song on this album, right after the California, is the answer to my question that I had written here that I was going to ask you.
Oh, okay. Is this a quiz?
Which of her songs is the one that sounds most like a Led Zeppelin song? And of course, there was
my guess is the next song you're going to play.
There was only one answer to that, really. I mean, because I don't think that many of her other... I can't think of another song of hers that sounds that much like Led Zeppelin song. And maybe you won't even hear it, but I think you will. It's not her singing as much as the guitar playing.
Yeah.
It sounds just like, to me, it's just like a song that could have been on like Led Zeppelin 3, which is their most acoustic album.
We actually cheated, and you played the song for me.
Did I do this already?
Yeah.
Okay, and did you agree with me, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so
I did pick it up. Yeah.
Let's just take a little listen to that. It's like the chord progression here is something he would do, and some sort of diminished seventh, augmented fifth, fourth. This is not a regular chord. This is like weird tuning and everything.
Could it have as much to do with the sound of the guitar?
It's just a kind of a chord that he would play, like a set of chords that he would play, and also kind of the slide. There's a slide guitar going on there that he also did. And I could sort of see Robert Plant singing the song. In fact, the high pitches sometimes match Robert Plant.
Well, I can tell you, it would be my preference to hear Robert.
Oh boy. Okay, so moving along.
Does Robert Plant do that song?
Oh, here's another note of mine. I'm going to ignore you slightly here, but. So, Ladies of the Canyon, which was the one before this album.
Yeah. One
note I had written as I was listening to: some songs seem to sacrifice melody for poetry. So, and
a lot of the critics said the arrangement. Same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Then I guess I'm on the same page. Yeah. But the arrangement was the example I wrote down here, the piano one that we talked about earlier.
But say it again. She sacrificed
melody for poetry. Like she's trying so hard to be meaningful,
poetic
in a poetic way.
Yeah.
I maybe I don't know. I'm trying hard to be a poet because I think it just comes naturally to some degree for her.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes the poetry on the album gets a little bit in the way of melody as well. I mean, it takes over and makes the song less melodic, I guess.
Right.
The next song, River, is a very famous song of hers. I don't know if you knew this one already. It's often on Christmas compilations.
Joni Mitchell's version of it is on Christmas compilations?
It is. I've seen it on some, and also Sarah McLachlan has a very good version of it too that was on at least one compilation. It's a very pretty song. And like this is
very nice.
Jingle Bells, essentially, like her more impressionistic version of Jingle Bells, but so it's sort of set in a Christmas thing. Definitely not an upbeat Christmas song by any means.
Well, I like the tone of her voice in this.
Yeah, I wish I had a river I could skate away on. And it's a very depressing song, really. I think it's about a romantic relationship gone bad around the holidays.
She's the hell out of town.
Yeah, about being lonely and just sad. It's okay, Joni. It's a beautiful song. I think it's one of her more beautiful melodies. Eric's grimacing, as you might have imagined. I can definitely see it sometimes, but sometimes it needs that emotion. Like if she didn't do that, it wouldn't have the power sometimes. Like it's her way of just like.
Well, she wields that like a broadsword, though.
I don't think so. I think it's more laser targeting.
70% of her songs, she hits those notes, and it's like
she hits them. That's every time. She doesn't just like try for them. She knows where she's going.
Well, she can get there, and kudos to her for being able to do that. It's awesome. But
all right, well, the next song, "The Case of You,"
rattles my molars. Man.
This is actually my favorite song on the album. See, that's the problem with this album. I love so many of the songs on this that every song on here feels like my favorite.
I do like this song.
I could drink a case of you and still be on my feet. Although actually, I read something about that, and I think that's supposed to be a put down actually.
Because
this is about a breakup. This is again, and I think
she talks about Canada.
Yeah.
Oh, Canada.
This might be a James Taylor breakup song. I think it was. But the idea of being able to drink a case of you and still be on my feet kind of implies that you're not that. Like, if you sing about somebody you like were just head over heels about, you drank a case of them, you'd be like so drunk. You know, wouldn't that be more the analogy?
You know, I guess that's an interpretation you could go with, but I felt like it was like, I can't get enough of you.
Well, here's. See what this one. You're in my blood like holy wine. This, I think she's talking about Canada here, as you said. I mean, she sings that line, but I think she changes over the course of the song about who. Here it's about Canada, then the next verse is about a guy, I think.
Oh, is that right? That sounds like a positive thing to me.
I think her vocal range here, and I think maybe you'll agree with me.
I'm digging
beautiful this. Vocal range for her.
I do like this song. Yeah.
It's like very warm and comforting. You just heard.
Yeah.
And I suppose if you sang all her songs in that range, you would be a very big Joni Mitchell fan, maybe.
Yeah,
or at least a bigger Joni
Mitchell. I don't want to cuddle with her.
Or just curl up at her feet while she serenades you and lullabies.
Absolutely, that'd be great.
Okay.
I'd want tater tots.
Tater tots. That's an interesting. Wow.
That's a cuddle food.
That sounds like something for your therapist, maybe. I'm not sure, but. Okay. Anyway, and then the album ends with "Last Time I Saw Richard," which is a great song too, but I don't need to play every song on here. So then the next album. So she goes from that.
Yeah.
In 71.
And the live album is in there somewhere, yeah.
No, actually, that's later.
Okay.
That's 74. For the Roses is her next one, and that is a really transitional album for her because all the previous stuff, even though there was like Ladies of the Canyon had some more interesting stuff starting to happen at the piano, whether you like it or not, and then Blue, she kind of goes back to the more acoustic, completely acoustic sound, a little piano, river, and all that. But then on For the Roses, where she really starts, it's like a blend of that sound and what ended up being Court and Spark, which is really fully fleshed out, produced, full band kind of sound for the most part. There are some exceptions on there too. For the Roses has a bit of both, and she also starts to use like an electric guitar too, rather than just her acoustic, like her own playing. I think like this one, Cold Blue Steel and Sweet Fire. Oh, actually, it's acoustic. It's funny. I think of this as a little more. I guess it's just a jazzier kind of album.
It is quite jazzy, isn't it? Yeah.
This has like. This could be on Court and Spark too. It has that. I love the melody in this.
Yeah, I like this also.
Well, I think I don't know if you thought about it like this,
me
but
personally.
Yes, you personally would much more appreciate her album, this album and the next, Court and Spark, because I think she does less of that thing with her voice that you don't care for.
Yeah.
She sings at a lower range here a lot of the time. Like she doesn't get much higher in this, like in this song. So she has some cool stuff there, and then there's Bar and Grill, which is a really cool song.
Yeah.
This part actually sounds very much like a flashback to her first album with that little.
Oh, maybe that's the association I'm making because I did dig this song. It was familiar to me when I heard this.
Yeah. And the lyrics in the song are so good. If you listen closely, it's just she comes up with like just words that nobody else would know. She comes up with just the way she forms. I'm having trouble saying anything right now. And what I'm trying to say is the exact opposite of that. Is that she takes her thoughts and just puts them into such fascinating ideas. I don't know. I think she
That's really a skill for sure, man.
Yeah.
And then make it like
to say it in a way that
singable.
nobody else would say it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think she's so good at that. And here, like that last bit, maybe you caught it. Was she was singing like a higher voice, but it was more smooth, and it didn't do that.
Yeah.
So I
can accept that. In fact, I kind of liked it when she did that this thing. Yeah.
Right. For the Roses, the title track here. This one is one of the. This one's definitely about James Taylor.
Definitely.
Not that she was like with James Taylor for very long.
Yeah.
But this one, from what I understand, I read a few things or saw a documentary too, or actually read a very extensive article about it. But this is kind of a put down.
She insults James Taylor?
Kind of. Listen to it. Well, I can't tell it here yet. She's talking about him like in hotel rooms with groupies, surrounded by groupies and stuff, and how he's just sort of like being sucked into the music industry.
It does help me if you describe what's going on.
Since Moffat sits a poet.
On your mark, red ribbon runner, the caressing rev of motors finely tuned like fancy women in 30s evening gowns. Up the charts, off to the airport, your name's in the news, everything's first class. The lights go down and it's just you up there, getting them to feel like that.
So she's like, she pictures him in an office with the record executive, basically like selling his soul, is what she said. Basically, I think she was disappointed. He started out, with the very confessional singer-songwriter, and he became this just. This is my personal opinion coming to play here, but James Taylor's definitely sold out. If anybody, I admit he was talented, and his first album, I think I really like a lot of that album. But then he just became this kind of schlocky. It's just hard to take. And I think she saw that happening. I think she could see him just getting like swayed by the music industry, the adoration, the money maybe, and just sort of like allowing himself to kind of lose focus of his major talents.
No shit.
That's what I read into it.
And so your personal opinion of James Taylor is not up there.
Well, I'm agreeing with her, essentially. Yeah. I mean, although she's got some romantic stuff going on there, too, obviously. Yeah. But, I mean, the song is a bit of a dig at him for that stuff, but she's also, I think that was the kind of stuff that also kept him from being more involved in the relationship, from what I was reading about this, too.
I see.
It's all part and parcel of the whole thing, as they say. Anyway, it's a beautiful song. I think it's one of her prettiest melodies, but when you listen to it, it's completely different than the melodies in a way. It's not totally nasty, but it's not. It does not shine a nice light on him, really. So
sucker.
Yeah. Also on here is one of her biggest pop hits, "You Turn Me On the Radio."
That is pretty critically acclaimed. Yeah.
Yes, that was a big hit for her, actually, or relatively speaking, at the time. Before Court and Spark, which ended up being her most commercially successful album, I think this was one of her biggest hits.
And which album is this? Are we looking?
This is For the Roses.
Yeah, this is the middle one.
This is the one that kind of blends the early acoustic with the more polished, produced sound. I think this song does a great job of being commercial, yet staying true to her songwriting nature. And she doesn't give up any of herself to make this a commercial pop song. And I think she wrote this to sort of satisfy the record label. but the fact that she's able to do that so well without just like making some stupid little, well, yeah, make some stupid little sign.
Yeah.
It's a really good sign, and like the lyrics are still pretty fascinating.
It's interesting you bring that up. I can't imagine the pressures that the artist must feel to satisfy the freaking label.
Oh, especially when there's any sort of success involved already, they want more, and they if they don't hear another hit on the next album that she brings out or anything brings out, they either demand it, they strongly encourage it in a way that's like, well, we're not going to be able to support this as well if you don't have a hit, and like little veiled threats, kind of, So For the Roses, that's.
Yeah, and as far as the acclaim, it kind of like wasn't a high mark for Joni Mitchell.
You mean in which way? Critically or commercially? Or?
Well, I don't know about commercially, but critically,
I think it got pretty well reviewed.
Well, it wasn't crappy, but it wasn't blue.
Well, I think because it's between two such fantastic albums, it is sort of forgotten about. But I think maybe I think it deserves to be elevated higher. I think it's close to being on their level, not quite there maybe, but I actually was reading something where some people think it's easily as good as the other two, if not even their favorite. So I mean, obviously, probably for every album of hers, there's somebody who finds that to be their favorite.
Who finds her voice just a little high.
Or that too, yes. There's probably somebody who loves like her later albums that I think are not even close to these, but they probably find those. They discover her maybe through those and appreciate. I don't know.
Their hippie parents.
Those are weird people. Those are weirdos. Don't deserve to have an opinion about Joni Mitchell at all. Okay, so we get to Court and Spark.
Bold.
I know, I'm joking. Court and Spark, which is, I think, pretty broadly...
Where the hell did the name of that come from? What does that mean? What's that?
Well, there's a song. The first song is called Court and Spark, and I think it's about courting.
Right, like dating.
And the spark. Court and Spark. And it's like the beginning of a relationship. I think I couldn't quote any other lyrics, but I think that's the basic idea of that concept. So this is by far her most commercially successful album. It had a couple of big hits on it. One was a top 10, Help Me.
Help Me, yeah.
Now, how do you feel about her voice in that one? Because I think it does fantastic things.
I think the way that she applied her voice to that song.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's also more produced, and I think it smooths out the edges a bit. Like, because it's a more polished song, and maybe it doesn't to you, it doesn't come across as shrieky or something, as I think you find.
Yeah, thank you. That's the word I've been looking for all evening.
Shrieky.
Yeah.
So this is such a great song. I think this is one of the most amazing melodies of any 70s.
And it flows better, And some of those other songs, she'd hit these high notes and then be like so abrupt and in your face.
But she's like. And this song, she's hang gliding, and her voice just goes.
It's a nice visual, yeah.
And it just, the melody in this song is unlike almost any other '70s hit that I can think of. I mean, there are a few Fleetwood Mac songs I think are kind of in this vein, but not quite. I mean, they follow a much more predictable path. And
I think if she had done this song earlier in her career, she'd be hitting those high notes with this right here, and it wouldn't have been there as good.
Maybe, yeah. Well, I think she'd matured as a singer.
Because even when she says help, it's like help. It's more harmonized in her own voice. You know?
It's a richer way of singing.
Yeah.
And her voice in this song sounds. It's like one of her best vocals, I think. I love the vocals. I love the melody of the song. The instrumentation is it's kind of this very polished thing, which sometimes I don't like in songs, but like these little guitar things. But I love it. It all comes together really well in this song.
I could listen to this song with coffee in the morning.
Yeah. And then her little bridge here, it just works really well too. it kind of blends it all together really well. And then the next song,
I don't much like this bridge here.
No?
Yeah.
The instrumentation back there I'm not crazy about.
Maybe that's what
But I like the melody of her singing there.
Yeah.
So then the next song is Free Man in Paris, which I think I like even more. And this song here, for those
more animated.
For those who aren't, well, nobody can see that except Free Man in Paris is written about her friend David Geffen, who, speaking of record executives, he was already starting his own label at that time, and he had many connections, and he was just becoming an important person in the music world, a star maker, as she sings. And the whole song is about, I love the whole concept of this. It's like her singing about, from his perspective. I think he actually said a lot of this, not as poetically as she phrased it, I think, but he said to her basically that he needed to escape from the machinery of the music business, and that he felt alive in Paris and unfettered and alive, as she says in the thing. But then he turns it all around and says, but then I have to get back to, but I need to get back to stoking the star maker machinery behind the popular song. And basically he loved that freedom, but he just can't, he's addicted to the power of the executive, being a record executive.
Is it that he liked the role and the power associated with it, or was it?
Well, he doesn't say power. She doesn't say
money.
Well, the money, yeah. I mean, just the influence, everything that comes with the role he played in music. Let's play a little bit of it here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like this one.
And this is one of her best stories, I think. Just the way the lyrics flow, just.
I didn't like that intro at all.
What? Oh, that'll stop us right now.
You know, it's
a little flute thing.
It's super contrived to me. Yeah.
Any kind of music's contrived when you put it by that. I mean, somebody comes up with it, and I don't know. Maybe that's exactly what you mean, but I guess I just don't agree with that perspective on it.
Maybe I just don't like the abruptness of it.
Okay. Well, let's try to ignore that part.
Do we have to listen to it again?
Yes, we do.
Dang it.
Okay. Listen to her singing.
You mercifully skipped that first part, didn't you?
The way I see it, he said, you just can't win it. Everybody's in it for their own game. Always somebody calling you down.
She does the same thing with her voice, where she modulates it, and it flows much better on this. Yeah,
but I think it really works.
She's saying that even.
Like he's complaining that everybody's trying to get a piece of him, basically. But he's free in Paris.
Unfettered.
Nobody's calling me up for favors. Nobody's future to decide. You know, I'd go back there tomorrow. Except for the work I was taking on, stoking the star maker machinery. So I love that. I think that's such. Yeah. There's something about those lyrics that are so brilliant. I like the way she's able to juxtapose that freedom he was feeling with his need just to be back there doing it, you know. And, she uses vocabulary that nobody else ever uses.
Was it as good as your vocabulary just then? Juxtapose. That's a nice word.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Unfettered is a pretty good word.
Yeah, unfettered is really good. Yeah.
I deal in dreamers and telephone screeners. Everybody's. Oh yeah. I wonder what I'd do for her. Anyway.
So it's abundantly clear you're really fond of
I love
this particular album.
Yeah, it's a great album. It's those two songs are kind of what make the whole thing for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, now the next song on here that I wanted to talk about, her most rocking song, That's what it was a question.
Giddy
It was a
up.
question I was going to ask you. And of course, there was another one where I felt there was only one answer to that. Because she doesn't really do rocking songs. I mean,
Yeah.
there's stuff like that where it's, I don't call it rocking. It's brisk. It's upbeat. It chugs along at a nice clip, but it's not rocking. And this one is kind of borderline on that too, but it definitely fits the bill more than any other
More rocky
song. So here it is.
rocking.
Raised on Robbery. No, was it that? Yeah, Raised on Robbery. Here it is.
It's almost funk.
Yeah, well, it doesn't start out sounding like it's not much of a rocking song, but once it kicks in,
Yeah.
right now it sounds like some old 30s.
Yes. I was going to say exactly that.
Here we go. It really chugs in a nice
man.
clip, and it just.
There's a cool guitar in there.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm gonna. Now, this also is the answer to the question: what is her most risque song? Because there are some lines in here which kind of make you blush if you listen to it. Makes me blush. Anyway.
Is that right?
Just let's.
I'd love to hear you say them so I can see you.
No, I'm not going to say it. Well, it's not so much the word, but it's coming from her. Anyway, I really like this. I think it's
Dave's blushing already.
I'm blushing right now.
In anticipation.
Okay. Now, if this is the verse I'm thinking of, listen closely. Don't talk. Just listen. So did you catch that?
I didn't.
I'm a pretty good cook, sitting on my groceries. Come up to my kitchen, I'll show you my best recipes. Okay, maybe it's not worth blushing about, but do you get it? Do you get the sitting on my groceries? Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of crude,
Sitting
really.
on her groceries.
Yeah. I'm a pretty good cook. Yeah, she's talking about her sex. Her
organ.
That's not what I was going to say. I was trying to be a little more discreet than that. I was going to say, but she's talking about her abilities, her sexual, her.
She's sitting on her groceries.
Okay, let's. Yeah,
she's a pretty good cook. You're the one pointing this out in here.
I know, but you're the one who's taking it to me like a 12-year-old. I'm trying to point it out without making it juvenile. She's trying to be like sensual or like a very very.
Listening to the song, and even if I would listen to the words, I would not have captured that. But you did, and that.
Well, I know these songs so well,
and you're pointing it out now, and it's new to me. So
okay, I'm going to replay that part.
I'm pretty freaking amused by this. that she put those in there.
Yeah, it's not. It's just not something you typically hear from Joni Mitchell. Let's put it that way. That's why it stands out for me.
This would be a great karaoke song then. Sitting on my groceries. I'm a pretty good kid. Come up to my kitchen. That's funny. Baby. I wouldn't call this rock. I'd call it more rockabilly.
No.
Yeah, it's got that little
it's rock in the same way that like some of Paul Simon's stuff is rock. Like some of his really propulsive songs are like this too. Like they're not like distorted guitars rock, but they're rock. Okay, I guess I see what you're saying a little bit. I like
it has like a big swing to it.
Yeah. No, right. It's definitely got a swing to it. Definitely, it's like a big band jazz mixed in there, especially in the beginning. There's the beginning part, but I think it kind of flavors the song a bit. But it's like a train zooming down the track, like an old-fashioned steam train. No stopping it.
That.
it's
Sorry.
Okay,
it's chugging.
Keep listening.
Right.
It's chugging. Chugging is the key word. I keep coming back to it.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Ready?
She had a little money worth to do what?
No, this one's not suggestive or anything. Okay.
Yeah, I want to hear more about sex.
She was being clever, and you were being a 10-year-old. So, of course, I did bring it up. I know. I know. But I was just. It's possible to point out suggestive stuff without like being Beavis and Butthead about it, you know.
When you first heard that, were you Beavis and Butthead?
When I was a kid, I didn't get it. I'm sure I didn't understand what
when you did finally understand it, were you like, oh?
It's like, wow. I was like, is she?
Were you Beavis and Butthead about it when you first discovered it?
No, I don't think so. I don't know, but
I think sitting on my groceries is a great line, though.
Yeah. Well, I think for a while I was like, what does that mean? And as I got older, I started to get it, kind of. And it's like, oh, wow. Joni Mitchell, that's not really like her. I appreciate it, though. I think it's a great play on words.
Given that a woman can say, well, Joni Mitchell can say she's sitting on her groceries, can a man say he's also sitting on his groceries in the same sense? I guess I don't sit on my... No,
the anatomy, I think, works a little different than this. It's not quite as much. Okay.
You can take some poetic license, perhaps.
You could, perhaps. I suppose it depends how you're sitting, too. It sounds a little more painful.
Like you're on a bicycle.
Right. Okay. I'm sorry I ever brought this up. I'm regretting it by the moment. Okay.
Oh my god, that's
So, final song on this album. Wow, we are going long on this podcast. I have to say we're up to almost 3 hours, but not after I trim it down. Maybe you guys will only be hearing 1 hour worth of awesomeness.
Hopefully they hear about
with the groceries. Oh yeah. I'm not taking that out. Anyway, so let's try to wrap up here with the final 2 albums that we listened to.
All right, which didn't...
The Hissing of Summer Lawns and Hijira, which is... She started to go off on this really jazz tangent. Yeah. I think we talked about this earlier, where we just followed a different muse of sorts. Like, these are fascinating albums, I think, in some ways. Yeah, they were... I considered them the weird ones, and I didn't really hear them very much in our house, so I don't think they had time to grow on me either. There's one song on here that's interesting in that it's like an early attempt at doing like what Paul Simon did with like Graceland. And it's this one here.
Can't dig it.
I mean, I think it's kind of interesting. Her melody is not as much of a melody, but
yeah, I don't like that one.
I kind of like this little.
I dig the drums.
Yeah, it's very a melodic compared to her other stuff, and it's interesting.
Yeah,
but I don't know if it really works. I think it's a good experiment, maybe, but
yeah, it's an experiment.
I like the sounds of the drums. It's very raw, sort of like kind of like poorly recorded in an intentional sort of way. Maybe. I think, if I remember correctly, I think I read that she actually took recordings of tribal drums and used them.
Oh, is that right?
I don't think these were played specifically for her. I think she built the song around that. I could be wrong, but I thought I remember reading it.
There's all that electronic.
I might just be spreading misinformation. Was there... I haven't been giving you a chance to jump in here with some of your favorite songs, but then again, considering your opinion of...
I went through the albums that we chose and listened to them all, and then I started from the end and went backwards with them as far as chronological.
Yeah.
And
did you like some of these later ones?
There were some that kind of stuck out with me that I was interested in. Yeah, the For the Roses. The couple songs, I have a couple notes about them, and the first one is very high pitched, and I also
yes, we've gone there already.
And I wrote, I'm 5 or more songs into it, and it still is not my favorite album.
That's so. You're being so polite about it.
Well, that's not exactly what I wrote. I was being a little diplomatic there.
And this is Harry's House, which I think was a song that kind of annoyed me.
If it annoyed you.
Maybe I liked it. I forget. I don't know. There aren't too many songs on here on these albums that stand out to me individually. I think they work better just listening through to them as like a kind of background music, I guess. And I'm not saying they aren't like worth listening more closely to, but I think they work better as a whole for me, like than instead of like pulling out individual songs.
Yeah.
And on Hejira, actually, I found Hejira to be more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Than Hissing of Summer Lawns, because I think on the whole it worked really well as like a mood piece kind of thing.
And would you also say that this is an album you'd want to listen to, like this? It's in its background,
right? I mean, I guess it's just no. Actually, there are a few songs here that I actually that stand out for me. Like Coyote is very interesting. This is about, I know what the story is behind this. She was also involved with Sam Shepard, the actor / playwright, and this is about him. I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's pretty long, but it's got a cool...
Well, this is a great guitar in this right here. Yeah, I'm familiar with this song.
And I like her singing in this too. It's a very different... This is where she starts to sound like her later albums, I think. It's more of a jazz-based kind of singing. It's like a little free-form.
And it's funny.
It's almost speaks.
Her voice in this one, it strikes me as, for whatever reason, even though it's not as high pitched as some of the songs, this one strikes me as high pitched. It sounds like she's like affected, you know. Maybe so, yeah.
Well, like this, you couldn't possibly sing this like in karaoke or something. It's like,
no.
Like it's almost it's a almost spoken word piece as much as it is singing, you know. But I like it because it's a. If you listen to it more closely, and listen to the lyrics, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Wordplay and stuff. I don't know, but
I like the guitar in this one though.
Yeah, the next song, Amelia, is actually quite a moving.
You're
song.
Breaking My Heart.
No, that's Cecilia.
Oh.
Amelia is actually about Amelia Earhart.
Oh.
And this has I really like the song actually. It's kind of a tribute to Amelia Earhart and her daring and
right on.
her
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's very daring what she did.
And then she sings to Amelia in the chorus. Here. So she kind of speaks to her a few times throughout the song. It's pretty moving stuff. And
well, kudos to Joni for like doing that. I think Amelia Earhart deserves that kind of recognition.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I think she was like an inspiration to her, and she saw her as an inspiration as like a woman who just did what she was driven to do. And that's what Joni has always done with her music. I think she kind of just moves along with her own vision, whatever it may be, and that's
women have I don't want to say so few role models, but it's nice to recognize the ones that do exist for sure.
History is written by men,
right?
As they say, right? So
she lives on, man.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. So there were a few others. Furry Sings the Blues is kind of a interesting thing, but it's the furry name bothers me kind of. And
I've read it, but hearing it said out loud, I'm like, ugh.
I feel like it's a Muppet song.
It gives me the
heebie-jeebies?
heebie-jeebies. I was going to say that exactly. Yeah.
I feel like it's a song about the Muppets, but it's just some jazz cat named Furry who, I don't know. I'm trying to think which one's worth playing here. Let's try. I'm going to try Hijira first. The title.
The title track. Yeah. Suzanne Vega right there, man.
Yeah, well, stuff like this probably was heavily influenced on people like Suzanne Vega. Yeah. I think this phase of Joni Mitchell's career, I don't like it as much as the other stuff, but it's really good stuff. It's really kind of groundbreaking. She was doing stuff nobody else was doing, and I think it did influence a lot of people. There were people who probably find this to be her strongest work, and people like Suzanne Vega were particularly moved to do their thing based on this kind of stuff.
I didn't catch the similarities to Suzanne Vega until we're listening to it now.
Yeah, some of the musically definitely. This is Song for Sharon. I'm trying to remember what I found good about this. I think this was kind of a bit of a throwback to her older style of song. Oh yeah. I feel like it had kind of a stronger melody on this album than Minnie. Anyway, the last one I think was Refuge of the Roads. That's one.
This is very nice guitar in this.
Yeah. This has a really nice melody to it. Very much an easy listening sort of thing. In fact, a lot of this album sort of would come under that. But much better and easy listening than most stuff.
I find myself listening to her songs, especially acoustic songs, and I'm wishing that she would do more instrumentals.
Oh my god. Wow. That's
amusing the shit out
of me. Wow. Well, fortunately, she was a great instrumentalist, so there's a lot to appreciate there. Hopefully.
Does she have any instrumental albums?
No. There are audio utilities where you can blank out the vocals pretty well. Maybe that's what you need to do.
There's a market for Joni Mitchell albums where her voice is taken out a bit.
A market for it. I think it's fairly limited, to be honest. But I don't know. Clearly, they've got at least one version.
Oh yeah, I might buy one or two.
Anyway, well, I guess we've completed our survey of all the albums in record time. So, is there anything you'd like to?
Well,
in wrapping up, is there anything you'd like to?
I do have one thing to say, and I thought of this before. It's like I'm so glad to get.
We're done with this.
Get Joni Mitchell out of my misery.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Dave.
I kind of like the turn of the phrase there, but it's it. Well, you did well listening to every one of those albums at least twice. Like you seem
there was some benefit to that, and I don't regret any of it.
You understand her better,
and I get a lot of satisfaction out of torturing you.
I'm sure this was, yeah. I think you understand why she's given so much credit for.
I do. I don't want to discredit her. I think I said this earlier also, but her talent and her skill and musical abilities. It's just not one that I.
She influenced a broad range of people too. Like Prince was a huge Joni Mitchell fan.
Yeah,
he was. And I think it does come through in some of his slower stuff, not his dance music so much, but he's got, especially on some of his later albums, he did some stuff that musically sounded a lot like that. I mean, his singing, I don't think ever really was like hers in any way. Well, maybe he may have done some like that vocal swooping stuff. Maybe
I'd be curious to know where those influences came through, and not just Prince, but other artists as well.
Right. Well, and I think she influenced a lot of female songwriters, a whole generation of them, basically, that were inspired to do their thing, and
that's super cool.
I think a lot of pretty much any that came after her that was doing anything like that. But I think her songwriting and her just musicianship, I think that even influenced people outside of the genre. Out of the side of the folk music scene. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to know that she was like a big influence on, say, like Heart or something like that. You know, like some of their more acoustic stuff or something, or I don't know. I mean, I think
where the Debbie Harry perhaps.
I mean, who knows? I think her influence extends a lot farther than just folk music.
Yeah,
I think that's what makes her such an important
person
in the history of music. So anyway, I enjoyed it. I get tired of listening to anybody that much, so I have to also agree that I'm not upset that we're done with this. But I also like I said, anybody listening to 8 albums of theirs.
It's true.
I think it gets.
Even some of my most favorite albums, I can only listen to them so many times.
Exactly.
By other artists.
But obviously I knew her well already, and it's interesting to see how she played on your sensibilities, and
I
appreciate her at least as much as I did before, but I already appreciate her a lot.
And I appreciate her more than I did.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to hear you say, even despite your issues.
Yeah.
Your personal issues.
That's my gig. It's my thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't reflect on her at all.
Yeah, I mean, there are people like that for me too. Like, I appreciate how important they are and that they're influential, but I don't go out of my way to listen to them.
Yeah.
So I guess that wraps up this episode.
Yeah, and if you're still with us, wow.
We'll send you $10. If you're still with us, seriously, I'm not really gonna send you $10, but I would love to know. I would love to know that you actually listen to the whole thing, and you'll become you'll be a star fan. Well, you'll get first dibs on all our merch.
And if you're embarrassed to admit it, you can just tell us secretly. You listen to the whole thing.
I really won't. I won't tell anybody. I promise. It'll be just between you and me. Oh my God.